and welcome back to the channel. Mr. Acolyte here, coming at you with my visual guide for the newest balance patch of DBFZ version 1.38. In this video, we're going to break down all the major changes to this patch one by one. There is a lot to go over, so we will definitely have the timestamps down below at the bottom for you. Of course, if you find this video helpful, I would really appreciate a like, as it helps out the channel a ton. But with all that out of the way, let's not waste any time and jump right on into this. Let's go ahead and start with the universal system changes. These are changes that affect the entire cast, and surprisingly, there are a lot of system-wide changes this time. Let's go ahead and break those down one by one. So first up is everyone's favorite thing, the C assist. C assists have been slightly nerfed. Their cooldown has been extended. So as you can see, it takes just a little bit longer for them to come back. So you're not going to be able to use them quite as often as you could before. To offset this, however, though, most C assists in the game have been buffed. I would say roughly 90% of them now come out faster, and some even have special properties. Next up is a big one. There is a system-wide change to supers. Believe it or not, supers are now invincible on frame 4, I believe. Keep in mind at this time, the patch notes are still kind of rough, so some information might be a little bit off, but I do believe it is frame 4 because you can do this now. Check out the Vanish Frame Trap. And this is basically every level 1 in the game now works like this, so everyone now has a get off of me for just 1 bar. Pretty crazy. Next up is a really big one, is a change to the game's universal combo structure. Your JS's are now cancelable into heavies. So no longer is an S a dead end in a string. You can now use an S and continue your combo. So this is going to create new routes for literally every single character in the game. And last but not least, I'm sure you've already seen it by now, but if you haven't seen it yet, prepare yourself because this is the craziest one. Sparking Blast has been buffed yet again. When you are in Sparking Blast, all of your special moves are now super dash cancelable. And not just that, they are special move cancelable. So effectively, any special move you have, you can cancel it into another strength. So for example, you can do medium, light into medium, or just go into a whole nother move. I don't have to tell you that this is a massive, massive change. And once again, is going to lead to all new routes and all new pressure sequences for the entire cast. So now that we've broken down the universal system mechanics, let's go ahead and start talking about the individual character buffs. We're going to, of course, start with the protagonist, SSJ Goku. So SSJ got some really interesting changes to basically all of his core moves and his combo structure. Starting off with his 2S, he can now do 2 of them. He can now do 2S twice, and not only that, if it connects on hit, he can jump cancel it. So I'm sure this is going to lead to a lot of new routes and a lot of crazy new stuff for him. Next up, his Dragon Fist, the heavy EX version. If you hold the button down, it now becomes a cross-up. So if you want to do the original version, you just press it like normal, but if you want to do a cross-up like Blue Goku or Base Vegeta, you hold the button down, and now he has a ambiguous cross-up attack. And they went ahead and buffed his A assist. If you hold up, he now does an anti-air version. SSJ Vegeta. Vegeta got some changes to his buttons and his special moves that are definitely going to raise his damage and meter gain. Starting off with his 5H, you can now charge it by holding down the button. This even extends the range a little bit. His auto combo has a new ender. If you do forward and L on the final hit, you get a plus move. That adds a little bit of delay in there, but you become plus. His 5S, his standard Ki Blast, now comes out faster. And he has a brand new input, 214S, that does a brand new version of the rapid fire shot. When done in the air, this will bring the opponent down for more combos. Pretty crazy. Piccolo. Piccolo got some very interesting changes to his kit, starting with his buttons. His standing heavy attack will now charge faster. They once again buffed his command grab. If you hold the button and press forward, he will now lunge forward to grab them from further away. The air version now has a new input. You can now do up back S to do sort of a jump back grab. Demon Shocker has been buffed. You can now do both together. You can sort of Gatling the diagonal and horizontal versions together, whichever way you choose. And on the horizontal, the anti-air version, it now has less recovery. So you now recover faster when trying to use it as an actual anti-air. Demon Slicer now comes out faster when the opponent is in any sort of hit stun. And last but not least, they have completely reworked his orbs. First of all, the 236 version is much, much faster. As you can see, it travels across the screen very quickly. But not only that, they added a 214 input. So if you want to do the old version, you now do 214. The 214 now moves slowly, and the 236 moves faster. This should help him out with his neutral problems. If you hold the button down, once again, the big version goes faster. And then if you do the 214, the slow version goes very slow. And that's not all. The orbs are now cancelable on whiff. So if you do the orb, you can immediately super dash any of them. And not just that, you can also cancel them into special moves. Teen Gohan. Teen Gohan got some very interesting changes that are definitely going to shake up the way that he's always been played. Starting off with his most infamous attack, his auto combo. Normally when you do this, you would just fall and that would be it and you would get punished. But now you can actually cancel the second part of the auto combo in to heavy and S buttons. So you can go straight into the S's, 2S, or even H. That is a really big change. And very similarly, his 2S got the same change. When you do his 2S, you can also do a Ki Blast follow-up with that, or even do his heavy. And on top of adding those cancel options, it actually comes out a lot faster, and they are stunned for longer. So this is definitely going to help with his combo game. I know that was a big problem with Teen Gohan, is that his combos would randomly drop. This is going to do a lot to alleviate that, and I'm sure he's going to get a lot of new routes out of this as well. And lastly, they increased the knockback on his EX flying kick. All around, his combo game should just be a lot more reliable. Freeza. Freeza got some massive buffs that are definitely going to highly improve his already strong zoning and even improve his damage output. Let's check it out. So the first change is one that I'm very excited about. They reverted Frieza's rocks basically back to Season 1. So to start off with, they are a lot faster, as you can see, and if you didn't catch it, they go up a lot higher. So his rocks are now even more powerful as a neutral slash zoning tool. You can't even easily jump over them anymore. And if that wasn't enough, as I said, they took it back to Season 1 status. You can now vanish them again. This used to be something you could do back in Season 1, but they removed, and you can now vanish and the rocks will not disappear. You love to see it. Next up are the discs. I'll just let this one speak for itself. The discs now combo into themselves. You no longer have to hit confirm them with a Ki Blast. If they land, you get a guaranteed combo, and in the corner, you get free disc loops. They also buffed the cinematic version of You Might Die This Time. You now have a lot more hit stun after the bubble explodes. This will give you much more opportunity to follow it up with assists to extend your combos. Another big buff, they buffed Frieza's Warp Smash, his unique teleport move. You can now activate it in the air. So this plus slash invul move you can now do in the air. pretty crazy. And last but not least, they once again buffed Golden Frieza. I'm not gonna say they made it permanent, but they kinda made it permanent. If you don't know, Golden Frieza used to have the exact same timer as a level 3 Spark, but that is no longer the case. I just popped a level 3 Spark with Labcoat here. If you'll just have some patience with me, let's go ahead and just let this run out real quick. There it goes, it's blinking. Not only am I still not transforming back to regular Frieza, but I'm still in it. So it is longer than a level 3 Spark. And as you can see, I popped another level 3 Spark and it's still going. So needless to say, they basically doubled the amount of time that you are in Golden Frieza. And if you add in the fact, that's 2 Sparks, by the way, that's 2 level 3 Sparks, and I'm still gold. There it goes. So basically you are golden almost permanently. If you add in the fact that gold resets when you tag out and when you kill a character, and it pauses when you activate your Spark, basically you are almost never going to run out of Golden Frieza. Captain Ginyu, my buddy, the star of my channel. Boy, oh boy, did my man get mega buffed. Let's check these buffs out. So first of all, the meme button. The funniest button in the game, the button that does everything. Arc System Works. I love you kept the tradition alive. You can now cancel his heavy into Dragon Rush. No, this is not fake. This is real. And I absolutely love it. When I first saw this, I bursted into laughter. This is amazing. Next, they buffed each of the Ginyu Force members. Let's go ahead and break that down one by one, starting with Guldo. Guldo now has a time freeze effect. If the opponent is currently in hit stun and you call Guldo, he will freeze the screen for just a second with his time-stopping powers, allowing you to run up and get a combo. Rikum had his ultimate bomber buffed. Not only does it have better damage scaling and combos, but the initial hit does a lot more damage now. Birder is probably the craziest and the one you've probably already seen. Birder now has better hit stun when he connects. He basically is like the Frieza discs. He gives you an auto combo now. Anytime he connects, you can run up and get your combo, even for the air version. Now, if he randomly knocks somebody out of the air, you actually can convert it. Be aware though that this does completely destroy the original Ginyu B&B, so we're gonna have to learn all new combos with this fella. And as for Geese, he might possibly have the biggest buff. He now comes out way faster. He's basically like a jump scare now. Geese is practically instant. Beautiful. Sadly, the Ginyu B glitch is still in the game as of the time of this recording. I tested it multiple times once the patch hit. Ginyu B glitch is still in there, but on the bright side, the changes to all the members apply to Ginyu B, so that is a pretty okay compromise. But saving the best for last, those madmen over at Arxis, those maniacs, they brought it back. Yes, you can once again combo into body change. The body change combos are 100% back. The dark days are over. And if that wasn't enough, they also went ahead and buffed the stab. It used to cost 4 bars in total to do a body change with the stab, but now it only costs 3.5. Trunks got a bunch of buffs. Basically, his entire kit has been buffed. Let's go ahead and break those down. Starting with his crouching medium, it now goes full screen. For whatever reason, he can now slide full screen instantly. Sure, why not? They also buffed the range on his 5H. If you hold forward, it now comes out faster and goes further. His 5S has also been buffed. It now starts up faster. You can now change how far you travel by holding forward when doing his Air 2H. The grounded version of his Shining Slash now comes out faster. They changed the height restriction on all 3 versions of his flips. Change the Future has been buffed. The hit stun is now a lot higher on the cinematic and non-cinematic version. So they spin out for longer, and combined with his 5S buff, he can now combo into it full screen. And last but not least, they turned his level 3 into a jump scare. It is now a 10-frame command grab. It now basically comes out instantly. Cell got some interesting changes to his staggers while getting one of the biggest changes that this game itself needed. Let's take a look. So for both his 5H and his 5S and his 2S, you can now cancel into his step kick. So now his already crazy stagger game is going to get even crazier. There's just no telling when that step kick is coming. And reminder, yes, you do have to block that low. So yes, his staggers are going to be a lot better than they were before. They added a new variation version to his hell attack. Now you can do down medium to cross people up, but you can also do down light to stay same side. They also buffed the block stun on EX rolling attack. And yes, of course, most importantly of all, they did the thing. They nerfed perfect attack. Thank God. Android 18. 18 only got a handful of buffs, but they're crazy. Starting with her command grab, they adjusted the knockback on hit, basically where the character ends up after they get hit by it. This is to set up for her next buff. They changed the way her Kienzon works. When you do the inputs, you now have more control over the trajectory. As you can see, you can send it up to the moon, which just looks hilarious. And if you do the down version, as you can see, it has a special hit effect. It now acts as an OTG. And if that wasn't enough, they buffed one of her best moves, the EX17 call. The follow-up now comes out a lot faster. And you may have guessed, but it too is now an OTG. Gotenks. Gotenks got some kind of interesting buffs, but he also received some nerfs. Let's go ahead and take a look. Starting off with his standing light, if you hold forward, he now lunges forward during the startup of it, giving him a lot more range on his buttons. And keeping in line with that, the final part of his auto combo now lunges half screen. Both the Miracle Kick and Super Punch have been adjusted so that each move counts as its own move. And the other thing about his punches is the EX version now starts up faster. As you can see, it's 7 frames now. However, as you can probably also see, it is no longer plus. This is actually a huge nerf. This has always been one of the greatest strengths of Gotenks, is that he could just continue to keep his turn with EX punches for half a bar. That's no longer the case. He's now -2, so no more free turns when he has meter. His Galactic Donut has been sped up and now comes out much faster than before. And the same applies to his A assist. It now comes out faster. Krillin. Krillin got some absolutely insane buffs. Let's go ahead and take a look. So like many characters, Krillin has a change to his auto combo. If you hold forward now, he does a little hop kick at the end. If you do his Air 2S, you can now input a direction and fly. Senzu has been mega buffed. If you pick up a Senzu now, not only does it still heal you, but it now gives you meter. Krillin can feed himself meter. And if that wasn't crazy enough, they reduced the cost of doing continuous Kienzon. It now only costs half a bar. So you can throw a ridiculous amount of them now. Insane. It is important to note, though, that the damage has been adjusted to compensate for this. And his assists have all been buffed as well. If you do the Senzu assist, it will give your point character meter. So Krillin now has a meter assist. And for his B assist, if you hold up, he will now do an anti-air version. Kid Buu. Kid Buu got some very unique and interesting buffs, starting with his crouching medium. His crouching medium now acts like every other kind of button. You can cancel it in to anything you want. You can cancel it into a standing medium, a heavy, a S, a 2S, literally anything you want. It is just a normal button now. 5S has been buffed. He basically has a sort of reverse beat system now. He can now do 5S into 2M. So combine that with the other buff from before, and you can really go crazy with his string game. And they went ahead and buffed Arm Ball. Arm Ball has more active frames and less recovery, meaning it is overall now more plus than before. They also increased the hit stop when the attack actually connects. As you can see, it moves a lot more slowly now, giving you a lot more time to convert into a combo. These changes even apply to it as an assist. Majin Buu. Majin Buu got some pretty funny changes to his kit, starting with his auto combo. The third part of it now comes out faster. Definitely going to help out with his tick throw game. Next up is a great quality of life change. His 2S is now jump cancelable, so you can just go directly from 2S into an air combo. Pretty nice. Sweeping Breath is now treated like any other beam in the game. You can now cancel it into Super Dash on whiff or on hit. And Fat Throw has a brand new trajectory. If you hold back, he now throws it at a very high upward angle, taking up most of the top of the screen. This also applies to the assist version as well. And speaking of assist, they buffed his C assist. It now has invul frames much faster, so it'll work much better as an anti-air C assist. Nappa. I think it's safe to say that he is in the nominees for one of the biggest winners of the patch due to the fact that he received, to my knowledge, 0 nerfs and only buffs. Let's take a look. Starting with Arm Break, his unique overhead attack, you can now fake it out by hitting S. You will cancel the animation. Pretty cool. Blazing Storm, his projectile got the beam treatment. You can now do it into a super dash, and they also increased the uptech time, as you can see, to help you connect a super dash after it. And he also received assist buffs. His A assist has more hit stun, so you have longer time to go get your combo. And his C assist has improved tracking. Android 16. 16 mostly received buffs to his buttons and his throws. Starting with his auto combo, he can now manually command grab you by hitting forward and L for the third L. By holding back, his stand medium can now be chained into itself. This is also true for his 2M. His standing heavy is now safe on block. His medium and heavy power bombs now cause a slide knockdown on hit. And lastly, he can now combo into his self-destruct as long as the opponent is in a slide knockdown state. Hilarious. Yamcha. Yamcha got basically nothing but big buffs, and a lot of them are very interesting and some are kind of funny. Let's take a look. Starting with his 5H, it has been completely reworked. First of all, it goes way further. It's basically full screen now, which is insane because it does still have some invincibility properties on it. But if that weren't enough, it is now whiff cancelable. You can whiff cancel it into a super dash, any of his ki blasts, and even itself. So you can do a double invincible backflip into a full-on lunge. And reminder, it is also plus on block. His 2S now starts up faster than before. They added a cancel to Wolfang Tail, the move where he backdashes right here. If you hit down, it will prevent you from getting the other input so that you can cancel more easily. His anti-air had its invincibility and hit stun duration buffed. They buffed the hit stun on his level 1 super. And they buffed the damage of his level 3. The minimum damage and damage in general has been buffed. So if you do level 1 to level 3, it should do a lot more damage. Tenshinhan. Tenshinhan got some pretty minor changes this time, but all of them are buffs. Starting with his 5S, he can now rapid fire. He can do 2 in a row, and the hit stun on each of them has been increased. On top of that, they also sped up his Dodonpa. It now comes out faster than before, and you can even combine it with the double key blast to get a full screen confirm. His volleyball fists have also been tweaked. If you want to cancel it on hit, you can now hold back and the follow-ups will not come out. And the EX version was buffed to now have a ground bounce on hit. And possibly one of the funniest buffs of the entire patch, if you use Farewell Tenshinhan, and then you have Tenshinhan get KO'd and revived by the Dragon Balls, it will also revive Chaozu. Adult Gohan. Believe it or not, Adult Gohan actually did receive quite a few buffs, starting with his Crouching Medium. If you are in a powered up state, you can now cancel Crouching Medium Kick into Machine Gun Punches. They also buffed his 2S, one of his best escape tools. If you hold down forward, it will reduce the distance that you travel backwards. This also applies to the jumping version. If you hold forward, it will reduce how far backwards you fly. His 3H has been buffed. You can now cancel it into his 5H or his 2H on hit or on block. And when he hits level 7 now, he obtains the Sparking Blast rules of being able to cancel any special move into any other special move. Hit. Hit only got a few changes, but they're actually massive, massive buffs. Starting with the fact that finally, as people massively requested, they removed his meter penalty. So they buffed his meter gain, meaning he is no longer going to be a character that struggles to build meter during the match. They also went ahead and buffed his counter. Now when you are successful with a counter, it will give you a wall bounce. And last but not least, definitely his coolest buff, no pun intended, his Icy Glare, aka his command grab, is now an OTG. Goku Blue. Goku Blue has received some very unique and very interesting buffs to his buttons. Starting with his auto combo, his LL now has less recovery, so it has better frame data on block and on whiff. And they buffed his auto combo overhead. If you whiff the second hit, it now comes out faster. And if that wasn't funny enough, they gave him a special, unique, universal overhead. If you do 6M and hold forward, he now floats towards the opponent. You can even float backwards. This character truly is the king of buttons. And if that wasn't enough, he basically has a new move. His 2S now has a new animation. It now does a teleporting key blast. And you can even control the angle by doing down forward to teleport behind them, or down back to teleport away. And when it comes to his assist, his A assist got a block stun buff. It now locks them down for longer, plus 32. So he basically has a beam assist that tracks you. Blue Vegeta, this is one of the public enemies of the previous patch, and he actually did receive a pretty nice handful of buffs. starting with his 5H, now has less recovery, so it's safer on block. His command grabs have been buffed as well, if you can believe it. The light and medium versions are now invul to projectiles, so he has even more anti-zoning properties to him. However, one big and very deserved nerf is that the H version has lost its armor to 2 H's. And lastly, they adjusted the way his EX kick works. If you are far away, it now takes longer to connect than if you're close. As you can see from full screen, it takes 18 frames to hit. However, from point blank range, it only takes 10. So from up close, it's very fast, but from further away, it's a little bit slower. And they also buffed his B assist to track the opponent as long as you are somewhat close. And they also increased the attack distance. Beerus, despite being one of the stronger characters in the game, he too received nothing but buffs, starting with his orbs. All across the board, his orbs just have more hit stun and less knockback. So if you have an orb on the screen and someone bumps into it or you knock it into them, you just have way more hit stun to work with, so you're much more likely to get your combos. And I've already seen on Twitter that because of this, the basketball combo in the corner is even more potent than before. Just like some other characters, they also buffed his S. You can now rapid fire it. You can do up to 2 of them in a combo, and they will combo together because it has more hit stun. His J2H has been buffed. It not only comes out faster and travels faster, but it has less recovery. They also reduced the recovery on his DP. He just recovers faster and he doesn't linger in the air as long as he did before. And all of his assists have been buffed. The A assist now has even more hit stun than before because of the orbs. And his B assist now has more hit stop so that you can get your pickups more easily. Goku Black. Goku Black only received a few changes, but the changes he did receive are pretty huge in my opinion. Starting with his 2M, it got sped up. It is now 9 frames. This means that he's going to have even more potent mix than he already does. They also reduced the recovery on his 5S. This will definitely buff his overall zoning capability. And they also buffed his 2S. Not only did they change the projectile speed, but they also buffed when it actually hits. And they even gave you a new input with 1S. If you hold down back, you'll do a retreating version. Pretty cool. Android 21. 21's changes mostly revolve around her move steals. Starting with her Connoisseur Cut, you can now decide whether or not you want to do the follow-up by holding back. If you hold back, you can do whatever you want and the follow-up will not come out. If you use the move steal version of her homing energy blast, she got the same change as Piccolo, allowing you to cancel it into pretty much anything you want. And the invincibility on Solar Flare has also been buffed. Her grounded level 3 got a really fun change. Similar to Asuka in Guilty Gear, when you land it, you can now input buttons to choose which steals you have. You get to manually choose which ones you want based on whatever button you press during that window. Really, really cool. For her assists, they buffed the block stun on her B assist. Base Goku. Base Goku received a handful of buffs, starting with his 5M. It now comes out faster at 7 frames, very, very quick. He received a brand new input. He now has a jumping 2L. This now does a faster version of his dive kick, so the 2L is the fast version and the 2M is the slightly slower version, but both have reduced recovery, and the M version now causes a ground bounce. His command grab was also buffed. The medium version now goes a little bit further. just a little bit. And probably his biggest buff is his EX command grab is now faster. It is a whopping 18 frames. That is insanely fast for a command grab in this game. This one, of course, also goes full screen. Base Vegeta. Base Vegeta's buffs are very simple, but also seem to be very, very effective. Starting with his auto combo, the LL has been sped up, as well as the LLL. So his auto combo in general is just stronger and travels further. They also sped up his Ki Blast. It comes out a lot faster and just travels faster in general to help with his zoning. And speaking of zoning, probably most impressively is if his jumping Ki Blast whiffs the opponent, it will now bounce off the ground. Bardock. Bardock received a few small buffs to his most notable attacks. Starting with his Riot Javelin, the L version, the main version that he uses, it now has more hit stun on hit. So basically, you now have more time to call an assist and actually combo into it. They also tweaked his Raging Meteor, his overhead attack. The spin no longer hits crouching opponents. I think the idea here is that they want this to be sort of a jump scare. So since the opponent doesn't have time to block the spin portion and recognize that they blocked like 3 or 4 hits, now just one singular hit is just going to come out of nowhere if they're not paying enough attention. So this does hit 1 frame faster than a universal overhead. So basically he has a overhead option now that's a little bit harder to block than it was before. And lastly, they buffed his Tyrant Lancer. It is now faster on startup. It now comes out in 20 frames, pretty quick, and it's still +4. I'd say that's a pretty good buff. Z Broly. Broly received buffs to most of his signature attacks, starting with his medium command grab. If you hold the button down, he now grabs you from further away. The same is true of the heavy version. But not just that, the heavy version actually comes out faster than before. It is now a 22 frame command grab. His Light Lariat has more stun time on hit. You're basically stunned all the way across the screen, allowing you to pick up with a variety of different kinds of assists. And if you've already used your cinematic, the medium and heavy versions now bounce you off the wall. His barrier received a very strange buff. If you hold the button down, he will now float up into the air. And stranger yet, if you input the anti-air command grab before the animation finishes, you can cancel it. So you can, I guess, sort of try to fake people out. And lastly, they buffed his B assist and now has more hits than before. Way more hits than before. Vegetto. For better or for worse, this character has received several buffs. Starting with number 1, his meter gain. He has had his meter penalty basically removed. Next up, his 5S has been buffed considerably. If you press it normally, it only comes out in front of him. However, if you hold forward, it will now track the opponent. Wherever the opponent is on screen, it will now track them even if you're full screen. His 2S has been basically reworked. Not only does he have a 3S version that will now lunge forward, but the camera effect on hit has been changed, and it's been adjusted to be easier to connect super dashes afterwards. Split Finger Shot was given the beam property buff. You can now super dash cancel it on whiff or on hit. And the hit stun has been buffed in order to allow you to pick up combos anytime it hits. This also has given him new combo routes. His anti-air grabs have been buffed. They sped up the L version. It now grabs you even faster than before. And the M and H versions have had their knockback adjusted on hit. They also went ahead and buffed his assists. His A assist now has less knockback on hit. so that it's a little bit easier to run up and get a combo. It still doesn't have the hit stun that it did in the past, but they just don't fly as far away from you, so it's a little bit easier to get your combo than before. And they sped up the startup on his B assist. Comes out a little bit faster than before. Zamasu. Zamasu received some pretty big changes to the way he is currently played, and going forward, I believe his combos and his pressure structure are going to be a lot different than they were before. Let's check it out. So starting off with, you probably already guessed if you've seen most of this video already, his meter nerf was removed, so now he can build meter again. Thank goodness. He also received the auto combo buff. He now has a built-in command grab. If you hit forward and L, he will do a delayed grab and just straight up command grab you. That is so very funny. The next bit of changes are pretty complicated, but I'm gonna try to explain it as simply as I can. They went ahead and made changes to his cancel system. So anytime you do his slash, you can hold S to go into flight mode, but they made it to where if you hold a direction such as back, that will no longer happen. So now if you want to buffer an input or whatever you want to do, but you don't want to go into flight, you can just hold back to make sure that you never go into flight. The same is true if you are in flight mode and you don't want to do the teleport afterward. Let's say that you want to do this, but you don't want to do that. If you hold a direction, you will just land immediately without doing the teleport. And most notably of all, his wall of light has been buffed. The lightning blasts are now 2 individual attacks. So instead of firing at the same time, they fire one after the other. This means that wall of light is now much more plus on block. As you can see, it's now plus 27. It's much more plus on block and on hit. The only downside to this is that all of the old tick throw setups no longer work. However, that's probably why they gave us this. Cooler got a lot of quality of life buffs, starting with his auto combo. His LL now has a better hit reaction on airborne opponents, so that you're more likely and more easy to get your air combos. Much like many other characters in this patch in general, his buttons have been reworked. He can now use his unique attacks, the Stomp and the 3H, after a 5H. So you can go 5H, 3H, 5H, Stomp, and you can also do S Stomp. So you just have way more options to mix up your buttons and keep your opponent guessing than ever before. The grounded version of his beam was buffed. It now has less recovery. It basically has the properties of a normal beam now. No more long ending lag afterwards. And lastly, they fully buffed his Death Shaker. So first of all, it is now -4. It is completely safe on block. And on hit, they've adjusted the damage scaling so that it works even better in combos. Android 17, definitely another strong contender for winner of this patch. 17 has received some massive buffs to his entire kit. Let's break it down. Starting with his buttons, you can now cancel his slide from his stand heavy. So just like a lot of other characters, he now has a lot more stagger options with his general buttons. Next up, his entire Rekka has basically been completely and totally buffed in every way, starting with his retreating Rekka, the finishing driver, the one where he spins backwards. It is now instantly invincible to projectiles. And the H version has full invincibility, not just projectiles, but full invincibility partway through the animation. Similar to other characters, he now has a built-in cancel system. If you don't want his barrier to come out during a Rekka by accident, you can hold up and it will not come out no matter what. Power Blitz. Power Blitz has been substantially buffed. There is a new version. There's now a H version. You can hit down, down H, and at the cost of half a bar, you will do a much faster Power Blitz. Comes out at 9 frames. Very, very fast, and it's safe. And if you have Power Blitz charged, you can now do an EX version of it by doing down, down H as well. And this will do a much faster version that not only ground bounces as you just saw, but is also an OTG. And if that wasn't enough, his Rekka pressure has been greatly buffed. He now has an H version of the overhead. So if you hit forward H during the Rekka, he now does a much faster overhead. And the same is true for his cancel, the fake out. There's an H version. If you do the H version, you will cross the opponent up. And lastly, his B assist was buffed. He now appears closer to the opponent. Jiren. Jiren is another very, very infamous character from the previous patch. He got a combination of both some buffs and some nerfs. Starting with his 2L. His 2L was nerfed. It is no longer a medium starter. So if you get hit by 2L, you're not going to completely and utterly explode. Thank goodness. If you hold down and forward, his 2H now travels further and faster than before. The damage and damage scaling on his Infinity Rush has been reduced. So his overall combo damage is going to be a bit lower. However, his counter, the counter impact, now causes a wall bounce when successfully landed. And lastly, he got one more buff, and it's a pretty hilarious one. When doing the air spin, the air 2H, you can now control where he goes. So you can just spin and fly across the screen, or spin and fly away. This is pretty darn funny looking. Videl. Videl is another on the list of possibly most buffed character in the game. Her buffs are absolutely mind-blowing. Starting with her auto combo, it's been reworked. It no longer whiffs on crouching opponents unless you hold forward. So if you hold forward, you still get the really spooky, really fast, instant command grab that everyone loves to see land. But now you have the option of mixing it up with a regular auto combo. So this just makes her even more of an insane mix machine. She's gonna be so hard to block going forward. Similar to other characters, she's been given a lot more freedom with her strings, mainly with her Justice combination. You now have more cancel options with this. Whenever you do it, you can go directly into an H. You can start with an H and then go to it. You can go into it and even go into overhead. You can cancel it into just about anything you want at any point you want. Her 2S, the Saiyaman summon, has even less recovery now. It basically has none. This might be the fastest recovering summon in the entire game. The jumping version has also been buffed. If the opponent is in hit stun, it now has better tracking and appears faster. Moving on to her command grabs, the light version now causes a ground bounce when you land it. The medium version now starts up faster and can also be canceled by holding down the button. So you can completely fake people out with the command grab now. And the H version has less recovery on whip. And lastly, definitely her most hilarious buff. She can now combo into the Great Saiyaman Super as long as the opponent is in hit stun. That means that on hit, you can now power up your Saiyaman and steal a bar of meter from the opponent. GT Goku. GT is another character who received a combination of buffs and a little bit of nerfs. Starting with his auto combo, the second part now comes out a lot faster if the first part whiffs, giving him way more coverage than before. They also sped up how fast the command grab portion comes out. He had his recovery reduced on both his 5M and his 2M. Both buttons are completely safe and just have a lot less whiff recovery in general. His Kamehameha now has the ability to pass through the opponent if you hold the button. Again, I'm recording this the night of the patch, so I'm not really sure what the use case for this is, but it does look pretty funny nonetheless. And lastly, his reverse Kamehameha was nerfed. While it is still completely invincible, it will not beat 2H attacks. Janemba. Janembros are back because he's another one that received only buffs, and he received a buff that was highly requested, and that is to remove the meter penalty. So he once again builds meter. On top of that, all of his ki blasts have been buffed, namely the tracking on them has been buffed. They now track the opponent way higher off the screen than before. He also has a brand new move, or should I say variation of a move. Down light will now do a light version of the shadow kick. This does a very deep stun that will allow you to get combo pickups off of assists. And if you can believe it, they actually went ahead and buffed his A assist. It comes out faster than before. It comes out at a whopping 30 frames. Now, you have a guaranteed full screen lockdown assist that comes out super quick. And they went ahead and buffed the movement speed on his B assist. Gogeta Blue, a character that has been infamous for a long time, and I think it's his turn to be top tier again because he is mega buffed. Starting with the key gauge, he too has his meter penalty removed, so he builds a lot more meter than before. His crouching light attack was buffed. It now comes out at a whopping 7 frames. So he basically has a normal low attack, meaning that his 50-50 mix is going to be crucial from this point forward. Doesn't stop there, however. They buffed his standing heavy, his 5H. It now goes just a little bit further than it did before. Just a little bit full screen. This buff goes together with his 5S. They extended the window for when you can do follow-up, so now you can do 5S into 5H. So he has full screen hit confirms now, easier full screen hit confirms off of his 5S. He now has a down forward version of his dive kick so that he lunges farther forward. And they buffed the distance traveled on the medium version of his Rekka. It too now goes just a little bit further forward. Just a little bit. Super Broly. This is another character that got some massive buffs and some massive changes, and I think fellas are gonna be really happy with this one. Starting with his buttons, his 5L got sped up. It now comes out faster. It now hits at 8 frames, much faster than it was before. They sped up the speed of his 5H. They adjusted the knockback and increased the stun time on his jumping medium to help him with his combo routes. As you can see, they kind of spin out a little bit now when they get hit by it. And hand in hand with that, they buffed the active frames on his Air 2H. So all in all, it's just going to be a lot easier to do his confirms and his combos in general. They adjusted the trajectory of his medium Raging Quake out of the air. He just lunges way further forward now when he does it. And arguably the most insane and most unbelievable buff of this entire patch is that Broly now has his canon game facts ability of infinite power. If he is in his install state after landing a level 3, look at his key gauge, it goes up on its own permanently. So as long as you are in this state, you will build meter without doing anything. I honestly don't even know what to say about that. Kefla. Kefla received some very scary buffs. Let's go ahead and break these down. Starting with her auto combo, she can now skip the middle of it by holding forward. You can go straight from the jab to the anti-air drop kick just by pressing forward and light. Much like everyone else, she had her button rules adjusted, so you can now do more with her overhead. You can do H into overhead, S into overhead. There's just more options to do her unique buttons. It's just not as stiff as it was before. Definitely her most spooky buff of all, her gigantic hammer, the EX version. This right here is now fully projectile invincible. Yikes. And time to test this out has been very heavily buffed. You can now cancel it into anything. Super dash, special moves, whatever. You can even cancel it into itself. And lastly, her A assist got a big buff. It now has an anti-air variant. If you hold up, she will now do the anti-air version instead of the horizontal version. UI Goku. UI Goku got a lot of buffs, and all of them are actually pretty hilarious. Let's go over them. Starting off with his auto combo. If you do his LL but you hold forward, you will now cross the opponent up. This will set you up for a command grab. Since they will not be blocking anything, this will make his command grab an actual mix-up if the opponent does not react to the fact that you went behind them. This is one of the first things to ever appear on Twitter for the patch, but his 5H is now full screen. This is a buff that I've seen people want for a long time. His 2S now comes out faster and has more hit stun, so you can actually confirm it pretty easily. Not just that, but there is a down forward version. If you hold 3 and hit S, you'll lunge forward and do it. Secret Sensation, the 6H counter got buffed. It is now less unsafe on whiff. He just generally recovers faster if you whiff it. So basically they want you to just 6H more things. They increased the movement speed of his godly display, the 236L. It just moves further faster. And for the H version, they reduced recovery on whiff. So it recovers way faster than before. His command grab now works in combos. As long as the opponent is in hit stun, it will always connect. And very similar to some other supers, his counter super was reworked. It now connects as long as the opponent is in a sliding knockdown state. Master Roshi. Roshi has received a bunch of quality of life changes that should make him even more fun to play. Starting with his auto combo, they adjusted the speed at which the second part of it comes out on whiff. So now you can get to the best part of his auto combo, the gang signs. They just come out a lot faster on whiff. And with the third part, you have more options of when you want to interrupt it. So if you press it all together, you can do the auto combo very quickly, or you have a lot of options to delay it. It's just up to you now. His 6S, the turtle orb, has been pretty greatly buffed. If you hold different directions, you can throw it at different angles now. So now the opponent has to worry about this move, regardless of if they're in the air or on the ground. And much like many other characters, his string game has been restructured to just be more friendly and open to creativity. Now all of his string buttons, his 5S, his 3H, and his 6H are all interchangeable. So if you do his H, you are not locked out of doing moves, and you can even do these moves together. They all go together. Basically, whatever you want to do, you have the freedom to do that now. You are no longer locked out just because you pressed a certain button in a certain order. And on top of that, his 6H can now combo as long as the opponent is in hit stun. And lastly, they went ahead and buffed his A assist. It now comes out faster. Super Baby 2, another favorite character of mine, and he got some amazing quality of life buffs. Let's go ahead and break those down. Similar to other characters, he did get the auto combo buff, which is very crazy. He can now do LL, forward L, and just straight up command grab you. So yes, Super Baby has a command grab. You'll love to see it. Next up is his 2S. They just flat out reduced the recovery. So now 2S is just going to be way better in neutral, and it'll be even better to do his Acid Rain loop combos with. Again, similar to many other characters, his 6S was given normal cancel property. So yes, you can finally do 6S into 5H. You can do 6S to H. You no longer have to do 6S to 14S. You can do 6S into 6H, which is just, that is so incredibly good that I don't even know what to say. That's so good. He also received a new move. You can now do a dive kick with crouching light that just comes out fast and does not cause a hard knockdown. This means he now has a fake cross-up option. If you want to get the knockdown, however, he still has the down medium. Down medium now does what down light used to do. His level 1 super now causes a ground bounce. This is to allow you to do his level 1 into level 3, because if you've ever played Baby before, you know that his level 1 into level 3 is very wonky, but now thanks to this change, you no longer have to cut off the animation. You can do level 1, level 3 safely. And they also flat out buffed his level 3. It is now a true reversal attack, because as you just saw, normally if you do it and the opponent's close, it won't hit them, but now you can hold down and he will throw it directly down. So now you can actually use it to punish even super dashes super consistently now. Gogeta 4. This character mostly only received universal changes, but they affect him in a big, big way. Let's take a look. So to start off with, his LLL is now dash cancelable if you're in Spark. And as I said, this is pretty much a universal change, but it heavily affects him more than other characters. His Saiyan kick, basically the forward H, you can now do this out of everything. You can do H, 6H, you can do it into itself. You can literally loop it, whether you do the overhead or the low. And you can even do it off of S. So as long as you're making contact with the opponent, you can do his Rekka. So his Rekka just became longer and you can do it from more places. So that's pretty big. Not only that, his S got buffed. You can now do it twice. The grounded version and the air version. And I don't know why, but for some reason, they reduced the recovery on the EX Gut Punch. If you whiff it, it recovers faster than before. Sheesh. And last but not least, Labcoat 21. It's kind of fitting that this is the final character because, in my opinion, this is the only character in the patch that has been substantially nerfed. Let's break it down. So starting with her buttons, she used to have the most immaculate frame data imaginable. However, that is no longer the case. On both her 5M and her 2M, she is now incredibly negative if you stop. Minus 13 on both. So these two hitting buttons, these multi-hitting buttons, can no longer hold you hostage. She cannot restart her pressure. She has to finish her string. These buttons are now actually more negative than her heavies. If you just look at it, you can just see how heavy they feel now. That is a massive, massive nerf. In terms of buffs, she got the same treatment as everyone else. All of her cancelable buttons can be canceled. She kind of could do that before anyway, but now it's just even more free. It just doesn't matter like what you do. Just like every other character that has unique buttons, they're not really picky about the order you do the unique buttons anymore. So that is a net buff for her right there because she has some pretty good unique buttons. However, what's not so good is they did completely nerf the spins. The spins now have reduced damage scaling. So if you land either the horizontal spin or the anti-air spin, both of them now no longer do the damage that they did before. As you can see, that has about the scaling of like a light or a ki blast. It's no longer medium scaling. You're no longer going to explode by getting hit by a spin. Deserved. And that brings us to the end of the visual guide. Thanks so much for listening, guys. If you're curious about what I think so far, again, it's still early at the time of me making this video, but I'm very hopeful. I like most of these changes. Some of the stuff seems a little scary, like I want to see how the sparking stuff pans out, because these sparking cancels might end up being pretty spooky in the long run, but we did say the same thing about level 1 into level 3, but people ended up liking that in the end, so I'm of the mind of wait and see. So far, I'm just mostly excited because this is a brand new game. It is a 6-year-old game, and we're still getting full-scale balance patches, so I'm just happy for that fact that we have such an old game that's still getting updated. Just think about the fact that many games have come and gone since 2018. Entire games have come out and died, and this game is still going strong, which is just insane. This is a testament to this game's popularity and how much people love to play this game, and I'm glad that we have a whole new version to sink our teeth into. I can't wait to see what the future holds. Can't wait to see what tournaments look like, what the meta is going to look like. I'm excited for the future. Definitely let me know what you think in the comments below, what you think about the patch. You know, what did you think about your character, all that good stuff, what kind of cheap stuff has been found out. I would love to hear it. Leave a like if you found this helpful at all. I really appreciate it. It really helps the channel out. I'm going to be streaming the patch nonstop over on Twitch, so if you want to come hang out and see some matches, see some Ginyu gameplay, you're welcome to come join us. Also check the playlist at the end of the video, because we do have matches from other games too, like Strive, Grand Blue, and Street Fighter. But again, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys. Y'all have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.